Hang on. Welcome back, episode 129 of the Grouch and the Brainstorm. And you know, Matt, every morning I wake up and I try to figure out how we can make this thing better, what I need to do different to and you know, obviously if in we're recording it appears grainy, that is, you know, kind of like the Japanese porn where you squiggle out things and you know you have to go back in and put in the stuff you want to see.
The missing
But
body parts.
no, I'm kidding. Yeah, I'm kidding. I don't know what that is. But um I guess basically every day I'd go in and try to figure out what we can do to make it better and what we can do to make the show better. And you know, obviously it's the content that matters, not really the product. You know, we're gonna record no matter what. And hope that you know we reach somebody in what we do. Man, I know we just talked what two or 3 days ago. We recorded an episode, um and what you been up to since then? Anything special go down? Were you in the
Man, I'll tell
men's room
you.
of a luxury?
Yeah, so yeah, I'll give you the story. This is my life, okay? This is how I roll. Wind up with a bunch of people out at the house tonight. Nowhere quiet to record. So I said, "Well, I'll run down to my brother's office in Bossier, real estate office. Nobody's there." So I drive all the way down to Bossier. I've got a key. Well, I've got the key fob on my other key ring. So I'm all the way down
Hmm.
here 30 minutes ago. And I went, I know where I can go. And I just went over to the Hilton on the Old Minden and busted up in one of these conference rooms. That's where I'm sitting right now. Dude walked by and I said, "Hey, I'm about to record a
Well,
podcast. Can I sit in here?" He said, "Go for it." I said, "All right." I shut the door and that's where I'm at. See that lovely painting
was that a
behind me
sink?
right there? That is a
I
sink.
like that. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
abstract.
It is. It's better. It
Yeah.
was almost the men's room. So I felt like the sink kind of brought it all together, you know. So yeah, that's how
You're
I'm
not
rolling
sitting on a
today.
toilet right now, are you?
No, but
God,
it was
man.
close. If I
Well,
hadn't found this room,
you'd have
I'd be in a
warned me.
stall.
If you could have warned me, I would have went in the restroom and we could have just did a from the John
From the John.
episode from the John. You know,
The
that's
problem
how.
there is just like at home, the noise. You know, you're gonna have neighbors. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get it too. That's that's pretty. Yeah. Have you done anything special
no work. Landry had
past
a
few
football
days?
game.
Nothing.
Nah, football work. Um, that's about it, man. That's it. Just the daily grind.
Well, man, I yesterday had a meeting I had to go to over in San Jose, California. And if you don't know where San Jose is, it's looking at my little dot, you know, on the map, just south of San Francisco. So I was actually, you know, probably a few miles south of San Francisco yesterday. Drove
Huh.
over, takes 3.5 hours to get there and 5 hours to get back. So I left at 7 o'clock yesterday morning, got back at 11 o'clock last night. And that
Dang.
was I'm gonna tell you, man, some pretty pretty neat country, but you get behind some pretty funky weed mobiles, man. You know, like the Cheech and Chong rides of the 1970s, late
Yeah.
70s, early 80s, and it was pretty amazing, dude. Pretty amazing trip, but I
Huh.
had a good time. The place I was at is called Little Saigon. That's the neck of the woods we were in, like the community. And so yeah, man, it was pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. So, you know, me and you talked after the last episode and we wanted to and I haven't had a chance to go back and look and see me and you have um if me and you have ever talked about this. Now, I know we went through the 12 steps and we started to even go through some of the traditions, you know, in our podcast back when Jill was here. And but I don't know if we've ever actually got into the doctor's opinion. And have we? Do you remember if we've ever got into
I
that?
don't
I
think
don't
we
think
have.
we've actually got into the. I don't either. I don't think that we've so we will, and it may take more than one episode. And I tell you what, if you want to, we can break it up into 30-minute episodes.
That's
And
fine with me. Yeah,
if that makes we'll do 30-minute episodes. We can record one tonight and then maybe one a few nights later. We'll just leave it off at a good spot. But I want to, before we dive off into reading this, so if you're just straight up brand new, don't know anything, it's the doctor's opinion is AA, whenever they were getting started, really wanted the people who were gonna read this book and practice this program to see a medical point of it, right? And so they got the doctor, and I think in the beginning he was reluctant to put his name on anything, right? You're coming out of the depression, you're a doctor, probably don't have a whole lot of money just because of the nature of the business and the finances. I would imagine you going through a depression, everybody's broke. They're spending their money on stuff they have to, and just kind of letting the body heal itself. Um, or the mind, whatever it is, or just if he's an addiction specialist or something, they're just trying to recover on their own, like a lot of people do, no matter what time period we're in, right? And but Dr. Silkworth, and I'm gonna read this, and this is coming straight from Wikipedia. That's the doctor, William. His name is William Duncan Silkworth. That was his name, right? And so he he was the doctor that was at the hospital Bill stayed at. And if you don't know, Bill Wilson was a co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous and majority writer of the Big Book of AA and all of that. And so anyway, he we're going to talk just a little bit about Dr. Silkworth himself. Okay? So
sure.
this is the doctor that we read about in the doctor's opinion. And a lot of people get this mixed up. They get Dr. Silkworth and Dr. Dre mixed up. And
Yeah,
although
big difference.
both are professional rappers, right? Dr. Silkworth was actually in the 30s and when Dr. Dre was in his 30s, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
no, actually, I've heard a lot of newcomers who come in and get a whole lot of knowledge real fast, right? Talk
Right.
about Dr. Silkworth and Dr. Bob, and they get them mixed up. So I'm
Yeah.
talking about, Bob, Bob Smith. Robert Smith's his real name, Smitty. But there's two founders of AA, Bill Wilson, Bob Smith, right? And a lot of people think that the doctor's opinion is Dr. Bob's opinion, and it's not. It's a real doctor, and Dr. Bob was a real doctor. Don't get me wrong; he was a
Hmm.
real doctor. But William Duncan Silkworth was actually born in 1873. Okay, that's 100 years before yours truly was born. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he was born in 1873. He passed away in 19 I'm trying to see it 1951. Okay, now that he passed away before my own parents were even born. I got a mom born in 55, 57, dad born in 55. And so he passed away in 1951. He was an American physician and specialist in the treatment of alcoholism. Okay, he was the director of the Charles B. Town Hospital for Drug and Alcohol Addiction in New York City in the 1930s. By the way, I've been to the Towns Hospital in New York City. It's no longer a hospital, it's an apartment. They've made like a apartment thing out of it and renovated and done all these things to it. It's no longer there, but it's right off of Central Park. So if you're sitting on a bench in Central Park, you can actually look across and see what used to be Towns Hospital, and then they added stuff to make it even more so. But so anyway, um, during the time that he was there, a future co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill Wilson, was admitted on 4 occasions. He almost had me. I was 6. Um, for alcoholism, Dr. Silkworth had profound influence on Bill and encouraged him to realize that alcoholism was more than just an issue of moral weakness. And he introduced Bill to the idea of alcoholism had a the idea that alcoholism had a pathological disease-like basis, right?
Mm.
So he actually had the theory of the allergy that we're going to talk about,
So
right?
was yeah.
And
So
so
was he? But he was kind of ahead of the curve on all this, like, right? I mean, this was kind of a new theory.
I think I think that yes, I think at the time, now this is the 1930s, and other discoveries have been made since then, Matt. But in the 1930s, this was basically revolutionary, right? But I want you to think about it like this, and this is how I think about it. If uh, you know, if you're not doing anything, right, then any kind of new theory that comes up may be looked down upon, considered revolutionary, considered something people don't want to mess with or play with
Hmm.
or any of that. But realistically, it was a theory, nothing proven. But for some reason, he had seen enough and heard enough to think that it could have very well been a disease. So Silkworth was actually in the whole disease thing, right?
Right.
So, with that being said, a little bit more about him. He was born in Brooklyn. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, him and Jay Z could have possibly known each other had Jay Z been anything more than a cell at the time, right?
Yeah.
But he was
Yeah.
born in Brooklyn. Uh, and to his parents were his, William Silkworth, Isabel Silkworth. Um, he had three siblings. He had a younger brother named Russell and a younger sister named Mabel. Did you know that, Matt?
No, I
See,
did
after all
not.
these years, you're learning something.
I'm always learning.
He attended Long He attended Long Branch High School and then called Chattel High School, which was a 3-year program when he began studying there. At the end of Silkworth's third year, the school authorities announced that they were converting the school to a 4-year program. That pissed him off, and he refused to return for a fourth year as he had already been accepted to Princeton.
Dang.
That's your old alma mater, isn't it? Princeton, or was it
Something.
was it Harvard?
Princeton and Bossier Parish, maybe, you know.
Well, yeah, I knew you had an Ivy League, some form of Ivy League background. So between 1892 and 1896, he got a bachelor's degree from Princeton, and it would take him several years to obtain a high school diploma. That don't really make sense, but we'll just go with it. During which time he was able to study at Princeton because the college authorities proved willing to overlook the fact he technically had not graduated from high school. So he had a college degree before he graduated from high school, apparently. Um, but he did good, and he quickly developed an interest and began to specialize in neuropsychiatry. And then, upon graduating from Princeton, he studied at Bellevue Hospital Medical College. Dude, this is still in the 1800s. From 1896, he got his degree in 99 after completing a 4-year program in 3 years. Again, Matt, he has a lot in common with you. He's doing
Yeah,
things
yeah.
just over and above. And while interning at Bellevue Hospital, Dr. Silkworth was exposed to many alcoholics and doctors with expertise on alcoholism. And since Bellevue was one of the only hospitals with a department specializing in the treatment of alcoholism in the United States at the time. And it goes on a whole lot of stuff about his treatment of alcoholism. It even talks about, I'm going to read this little part. It's called The Doctor's Opinion. During 1938 and 1939, Dr. Silkworth wrote letters, two of them, in support of Alcoholics Anonymous, which were included in a chapter called The Doctor's Opinion in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, and helped to provide the nascent organization with credibility. So there goes back to my, hey, they reached out to a doctor and said, can you endorse this? And he said, hey. Yeah, I will.
Hmm.
Crucially, he described the powerlessness of alcoholism as an obsession of the mind that compels one to drink and an allergy of the body that condemns one to go mad or die. Dr. Silkworth further observed that alcoholics could recover if they obtained an essential psychic change brought about with the aid of a higher power. And I'll stop there. It tells you where he's buried, Glenwood Cemetery in West Long Branch, New Jersey, and stuff like that. But this little paragraph right here, the psychic change. Man, when I was new to AA, I'd hear that psychic change stuff, and I didn't know. I don't know, man. I don't know what I believed or didn't believe, but I didn't understand. It
Yeah.
sounded like way more than just an attitude adjustment. It sounded like something that maybe, a psychic change. It does sound like some kind of
Brainwash or
um,
something.
weird thing. Yeah, well, it sounds just to me like, oh my God, kind of like when I was a kid and all the other little kids, I went to a Pentecostal school, and all the other little kids would talk about getting the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost, right? And so that was something so far out there that I did not quite think I was capable of it, right? So I'm not going to go into the religious part of especially my religious upbringing, but what I will go into is the psychic change, because, and there's even an appendix in the back of the book that talk about how to go in, how to, sometimes it's gradual. Some people have a burning bush moment. And, we've been in AA long enough to know we've had several people have burning bush moments.
Hmm.
I believe my sponsor, Joe, had one. And, and so, but then it also says there's a gradual psychic change. That would be me. I had a
Yeah.
gradual psychic change over the course of probably the first year. After that year, I had a whole different attitude towards liquor. And it was not an attitude of screw this stuff, or I hate it, or I don't want to be around it, or I don't like people that drink. I had an attitude of I can't do it. I'm not going to mess with it. If you want to do it, hey, that's your business. If you can do it successfully, that's what they invented the stuff for, right? But if you can't, then we got a clubhouse down here on Shed Road that'll gladly take you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I don't know, do you remember your psychic change, Matt?
I'm kind of similar to you. I mean, it was a very gradual, almost too slow for me process. I'm an alcoholic. I want to snap my fingers and be, changed overnight, but I did not have that experience. And uh, probably for me, that was a good thing because the slowness of it and the process it took to where my attitude shifted. Uh, I think back on that, and when I have moments where I'm like, hey, not that I really have those moments anymore, but if I ever thought about going back out, it's like, man, it was such a process to get to this point. Why would I do that? Why would I go back through
Right.
that whole deal? And because it's not, and I guess that's that play in the tape and all, but it's not that for me of go have a drink. It's like, oh well, you can spend the next 3 years after that drink trying to get your butt out of the gutter, and so that's kind of where I go with it. It was very slow, and I think it's still things, man. I'm 7 years, and I'm still working on things and working on ways to improve and do better, and I sure don't always get it right, but I'm a lot better than I was 7 years ago when I came in the Koala Club. I can tell you that. So, um,
Yeah, I
you know,
had to agree. Just knowing you for the past 7 years, Matt, has, and even though we have a lot of similarities and we have been to a lot of places and done a lot of the same things, we really haven't known each other for the last 7 years that you've been there,
hmm.
So,
Hmm.
man, we've already dove off for 19 minutes and 45 seconds into the doctor's opinion talk, and a little bit about Silkworth. And if anybody wants to know, any more about Dr. Silkworth, they can Google just like I did, come up with a Wikipedia page. But that's the doctor we're talking about in the doctor's opinion, William Silkworth. And there's a couple other guys that are noted that are talked about. And Dr. Bob Smith, who was very reserved, very shy, he's talked about early in AA. You're going to hear him. You're going to see his pictures on the wall. Ebby Thacker, you're going to see his pictures on the wall and hear a lot about him. I've read his biography as well, and other people out there notable people in Alcoholics Anonymous. But we're talking about Silkworth and his opinion right now. And you know what you're going to hear also in AA when you get there, Matt, that we don't do opinions. Opinions don't matter, but we got a chapter called The Doctor's Opinion. So his does, apparently.
His does, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the form. We of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the reader will be interested in the medical estimate of the plan of recovery described in this book. Convincing testimony must surely come from medical men who have had experience with the sufferings of our members and have witnessed our return to health. A well-known doctor, chief physician at a nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcohol and drug addiction, gave Alcoholics Anonymous this letter. And here's his letter, Matt. To whom it may concern, I have specialized in the treatment of alcoholism for many years. In late 1934, I attended a patient who thought he had been a competent businessman of good earning capacity. Was an alcoholic of a type I had come to regard as hopeless. So, all around successful dude, but he's hopeless in this guy's opinion. In the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery. He's giving him some credit. As part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conceptions to other alcoholics. So he's telling the other alcoholics his little bit of a story, right, man? And he's actually feeling better because of it. Impressing upon them that they must do likewise with still others. That's that carrying the message. He kind of figured, hey, carrying the message.
And hey, how sober was Bill when he started that? I mean, how much time do you think he had? Not long.
Oh, dude, he was in treatment doing this.
That's
a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's in treatment. Most people don't take us serious when we're in, hey, doctor, I got an idea. Yeah. Just let me out for 5 minutes. I'm gonna write it down on a stone tablet and come down out of the mountain.
That's right.
And they're just well, apparently Dr. Silkworth liked what he's seen. Pressing upon still others. This has become the basis of a rapidly growing fellowship of these men and their families. This man and over 100 others appear to have recovered. So he might have had, he came up with the concept while he was in, but Silkworth's writing this letter about what he's seen after he was out by sharing this and gathering a fellowship around him. He says, I personally know scores of cases who were of the type with whom other methods had failed. So he knows a lot of people that a lot of things just didn't work. These facts appear to be extreme medical importance because of the extraordinary possibilities of rapid growth inherent in this group. They may mark a new epoch in the annals of alcoholism. Yeah, I don't even know what that means, but it's like tearing a new ass in alcoholism. These men may well have a remedy for thousands of such situations. And it's actually, I think it's pronounced annals. We may rely resolutely on anything they say about themselves. Who says that about alcoholics? Very truly yours, signed, William Silkworth. Actually, it wasn't signed. That one wasn't signed. And so I'm going to, Matt, we've been recording for 24 minutes, but I'm going to read a little bit more. We're not going to go into the second letter until our next episode. Okay. I think breaking it down will get a little bit more of attention anyway. The physician who at our request gave us this letter has been kind enough to enlarge upon his views in another statement which follows. And that's an important one. In this statement, he confirms what we who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe, that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind. It did not satisfy us to be told we could not control our drinking just because we were maladjusted to life, that we were in full flight from reality, or were outright mental defective. Now, that says a lot, because what if it did satisfy them? None of this would even be possible. They'd have just went on with the same, this is what's wrong with us, we're doomed, we're going to die. But it didn't satisfy them, so they pursued other options, and apparently working
Mm-hmm.
with other alcoholics seems to be a success. So these things were true to some extent, in fact, to a considerable extent with some of us, but we are sure that our bodies were sickened as well. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. It's not just physical, Matt, it's mental as well. It's mental, not just mental, and it's physical as well. So it's a little bit of both. The doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcoholism interests us. As laymen, our opinion as to it sound as laymen, our opinion to its soundness may, of course, mean little, but as ex-problem drinkers, we can say that his explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account. Though we work out our solution on a spiritual as well as an altruistic plane, we favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who is very jittery or befogged. More often than not, it is imperative that a man's brain be cleared before he is approached, as he has then a better chance of understanding and accepting what we have to offer. And I'll stop there before we read that second letter. We'll read that second letter on our next episode. And but because it contains some stuff that, we really and truly got to stop, drop, and roll with. It talks about restless and irritable and discontented, which we talked about in our last episode. But I think breaking down the doctor's opinion for someone, I don't know, Matt. I was approached by a gentleman in my first real meeting. I'll say that, my first meeting where I was actually planning on staying because I just had nothing else to do. But I was approached by a gentleman. Phil F. tells this story in episode 3. Approached me. I didn't know him, and this has been over 14 years ago. And he said, "Hey, why don't you go home and read the doctor's opinion?" It doesn't make any sense, does it? What am I going to, go home and read the doctor's opinion? Dude, I've been locked in a room in rehabs for years and did nothing but read the big book, and none of it ever hit me. But if we
Mm-hmm.
break it down and we read it, maybe just somewhere in there we can understand a little bit about why we are different than a normal drinker. And I think that's
Yeah.
where the second letter really comes in to be, right, to the importance of our program, because it does talk about that mental obsession and how it's the allergy, right? And a lot of people want to debunk the allergy. Whether it's medically an allergy or not, it's like an allergy, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
once I start, I can't stop. So something triggers in my body to cause me to keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And that's where we get that's where we get that, is from his theory of that. And he's a real doctor. Or,
Yeah.
sounds like a pretty solid dude. Never heard anything bad about him. Nothing ever came from um, nothing ever came out of it, as far as him being not this and not that. And we've been doing AA now for, man, going on, 90 years. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna see. I think our we just celebrated. I don't know. I don't want to give a bad day. We're right at 90 something, 90 years. So and the doctor's opinion has been in that book ever since, and we got our name actually from the book. So um, like Journey says, don't stop believing. Just I
And
guess
it's
I guess that's I don't know.
I know you had to slide some Steve Perry in there on us, but uh
Well,
I think it's important, and I don't think that we talk about the history of it as much, of like how this evolved to be, and they were in the infant stages there of, and you talk about Dr. Silkworth, Bill being in there a couple weeks and being like, "Hey, I've got it." Silkworth probably was beating his own head against the wall to go, "What do I do to keep hauling these guys in and out of here? It's not working." and being, you know, kind of a smart guy, he went, hey, whatever works, let's figure it out. And you know, that's where the disease started to come into play, and we learned how to treat it. And I mean, this was the whole deal. And you know, there were so many different things they did with drunks leading up to that that had no effect, you know, little or no effect. Um, you and I both have spent some time in Mandeville, Louisiana. When I was
Yeah.
in high
Yeah.
school, okay, so Mandeville's on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain for folks that are listening. It big lake. There's a bridge that connects it to New Orleans. It's 21, 22 miles long. It's just a long straight shot over the
20
water. I'm in high
24,
school and I get a
24 miles.
job 24 miles. I get a job working for someone renovating an old YMCA camp. Been out there for years out in the woods in Covington. And we're just replacing stuff and fixing old tore down stuff. In the conversation, I said, what is this place? It's just out here in the middle of nowhere. And they said, man, this place in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they used this to haul the drunks. They would load them by wagon in the French Quarter and drive them on wagons. And they just figured, we'll just leave them out here in the woods. They can sleep it off, and that's all we can do. So they would just haul them up there and leave them, you know. And that
Nothing
place
they
had
could do.
evolved over the years. But yeah, yeah. So,
But you know,
so
now I actually researched uh, Mandeville because of the book I was reading. And in that area, Mandeville was where the local mental hospital is. Like if
mhm,
someone was mentally ill, they would bring them to Mandeville, or, you know, they would threaten to take them. You're going to end up in Mandeville, you know, which to be quite
yeah,
honest with you, I love Mandeville, Louisiana.
yeah. I'm good
One
with
of
it.
the prettiest places in the entire state. You know, I mean, if I'm going to sit there and have to sweat it off, Mandeville might be a really good place to do that because it's just
Yeah,
beautiful on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain. It touches up to Madisonville and Covington, and just, you know, and my group was called the Mandeville Group, you know, so what a good place to be, right? If
yeah,
you're gonna be in that area. So, but that's where they had, and I think if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken, Theo Vaughn is from Mandeville.
yeah. Sure,
Um,
sure.
yeah, over off of I think he grew up on Lee Drive or Lee somewhere. It's Lee something. I don't know a couple people there that lived on Lee, so good place. But Matt, we're gonna put a bookmark in it, all right? Because
Okay.
these I want these few episodes we do, the next few that when we talk about a little bit of research on the people that we talk about in the books, you know, we're gonna do the doctor's opinion, and then we can move on to Ebby, or we can move on to Bob or Bill, whoever. But as we do this little bit of research, I want to break it off into 30 minutes because I just don't want to lose our listener. You know, they may go to work, cut it off, and not turn it back on,
Sure.
and we don't want to do that. So, so Matt, tell everybody in the family I said hi. Oh, and oh, hang on, Matt, I got to do it.
Come on.
Yep, I failed to make an announcement on our last podcast. I did put it on my Instagram, but my very own son, Wyatt T. Walston, had a birthday. Not a belly. He had a belly button birthday on September the 28th, and I don't even know how old he is. To be honest with you, I think he was born September 28th, 1997. I do know that. So he's 27 or 28 years old at this point. So, but I did fail to mention that, and I felt bad about it because I talked about Jill's and I didn't talk about his. So,
I do.
September 28th,
I do have
1997.
a random announcement that I thought was hilarious. Right before I left to come down here, I walked past the TV in the living room. It's on the local 5 o'clock news. Okay, the sound is off. I just happened to glance at the screen. Bridget V, who has been on this podcast, she's told her story in recovery, is on the 5 o'clock news, and it says, all I saw was her name. She was standing out in the street, and underneath it, it said, hates potholes. I said, okay, there we go. So,
Yeah,
don't we
yeah.
all?
Well, we hope she gets them fixed,
Yeah.
but maybe she will. And I think I was absent for that episode, so I can't even say I've ever met her. But anyway, Matt, I will see you in a few days. Put your thoughts
Yep.
together and be thinking about everything you want to look at. And we're going to finish up the doctor's opinion on our next episode because there's not really a whole biography part of it that we got to cover. And
Yep.
I think I'm going to go ahead and release it tonight. I think I'm just going to release them as we record them. What do you think, bud?
I'm with you.
All right. Well, Matt, tell the family hi, and I'll see you on the next episode. We have been right here in Reno, Nevada, and Bossier City, Louisiana. We're always the Grouch and the Brainstorm.